Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Bangladesh government's interim head Mohammad Yunus dials India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. PM Modi reaffirms India's support for a democratic, stable, peaceful and progressive Bangladesh. India's Election Commission announces assembly elections scheduled for Union Territory Jammu and Kashmir and the northern Indian state Haryana. Elections to take place in 3 phases in Jammu and Kashmir, counting on October 4. Russia expedites evacuation of its citizens from Kursk and Belgorod regions as Ukrainian forces advance into Russian territory. President Putin chairs weekly meeting of Russia's Security Council. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a telephonic conversation with Professor Mohammad Yunus, the chief advisor of the interim government of Bangladesh, and exchanged views on the prevailing situation. During the call, the Prime Minister reaffirmed India's support for a democratic, stable, peaceful and progressive Bangladesh. Yunus in turn assured protection, safety and security of Hindus and all minorities in Bangladesh. India's Ministry of External Affairs has also said something.
Prime Minister, when he spoke from the Red Fort, he conveyed concerns on behalf of 140 crore Indians that the status of minorities, status of Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh, the government there should do more for the protection, for the safety and security. In fact, you would have in the suo motu statement that External Affairs Minister made in the Parliament also, there again he had mentioned his deep concerns about the safety and security of Hindus and other minorities. And he also had mentioned that we are monitoring the situation and we're deeply concerned about the safety and security of minorities.
And DD India correspondent Amrit Pal Singh joins us to give more details on this. Amrit, PM Modi held a telephonic conversation with Mohammad Yunus. Could you tell us what all was discussed?
It was Professor Yunus who called Prime Minister Modi this afternoon, and the two leaders spoke about the situation there. Mohammad Yunus would have understandably apprised Prime Minister Modi of the situation. What we know is that the Prime Minister, the Indian Prime Minister, promised the chief advisor of the interim government of Bangladesh that India would look at continuing its friendly relationship with Bangladesh and would extend all support for progressive, peaceful, stable and democratic Bangladesh, essentially hinting that India looks at the politics of Bangladesh returning to democracy in a manner that Bangladesh finds it best for itself. Secondly, Professor Yunus assured Prime Minister Modi of the safety of the minorities of his country, especially the Hindu minority, because that is the biggest minority in that country, given post the event when Sheikh Hasina was ousted, the Hindus had come under attack, and even during the student protests there were temples burnt, etc. So Professor Yunus assured Prime Minister Modi that safety of the minorities remains a key concern for his government.
All right, thank you so much, Amrit, for your analysis. India's Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar announced schedule of assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir and Haryana on Friday. The assembly polls in Jammu and Kashmir to be held in 3 phases. First phase will be on 18th of September, followed by second phase on 25th of September and the last phase on 1st of October, while the counting of votes to be taken up on 4th of October. However, Haryana will see single-phase assembly election on October 1st and counting of votes on October 4th.
Date of poll will be 18th of September and it's a Wednesday. We are also keeping that in mind, not keeping Fridays and Mondays to give a longer holiday spell. Second phase would be on 29th of August, and the statutory period of nominations and all, poll being on 25th of September. And phase 3, nomination on 5th of September, and every voting finishing on 1st of October. So counting would be on 4th of October, and everything would be over, bind up on 6th of October.
Achieving another milestone, the Indian Space Research Organization has successfully launched Earth Observation Satellite EOS-08 by a small satellite launch vehicle. In its third mission, ISRO successfully placed the SSLV into the intended orbit. EOS-08 is specially designed for deploying small satellites into low Earth orbit. With a growing demand for small launch vehicles, ISRO aims to commercialize it. The EOIR is designed to provide vital infrared data for various applications, including satellite-based surveillance, disaster monitoring, and environmental observation. ISRO Chief S. Somnath congratulated the team for SSLV's success. He announced that the development process of SSLV has reached conclusion and the technology will be transferred to private sector.
The third development flight of SSLV D3 with the EOS-08 satellite has been successfully accomplished. The rocket has placed the spacecraft in the very precise orbit as planned. I find that there are no deviations in the injection conditions. The final orbit, of course, will be known after tracking, but the current indication is that everything is perfect. The EOS-08 satellite as well as SR-0 satellite also has been injected after the maneuvers. And congratulations to the SSLV D3 team, the project team. With this third development flight of SSLV, we can declare the development process of SSLV is completed. And congratulations now.
On to another conflict. As tensions escalate at the Russia-Ukraine border, Moscow has accelerated the evacuation of its citizens from the Kursk and Belgorod regions amid ongoing advancements by Ukrainian forces in the area. Meanwhile, Ukrainian presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak stated that cross-border operation into Russia's Kursk region was necessary to prompt Moscow into engaging in meaningful negotiations, describing it as a push for fair talks. A Russian bomber crashed in Siberia's Irkutsk region due to a technical malfunction. One of the crew members died while others sustained injuries and were hospitalized. Regional Governor Igor Kobzev has confirmed the incident. And DD India correspondent Dasha Chernashova is joining us from Moscow to give more information on what's happening. Hello Dasha, what is the current situation on the border?
Well, the fighting is still ongoing. It's been more than 1 week into this Ukrainian incursion, and Russia has promised to crush the enemy, in the words of the head of Russia's General Staff, Valery Gerasimov. But still, the fighting is ongoing. The Russian MOD has confirmed that they have been repelling the Ukrainian attempts to move any deeper into the Russian Kursk region. They also say that they have been striking the Ukrainian positions in the Sumy region, destroying the HIMARS, MLRs, and also other equipment that has been supplied from the west. Also in the Kursk region, we have heard from the pro-Kremlin organization that has been helping the civilians to be evacuated that 2 of their members have been killed as a result of a direct strike from the Ukrainian side. Those were the people who were helping civilians to be evacuated from the Kursk region as this incursion is still ongoing. We also have heard the Kremlin aide Nikolai Patrushev saying that this Kursk incursion could not have been arranged without the support from the NATO countries and Western intelligence. He insisted that it is absolutely impossible for Ukraine to have perpetrated these acts of terrorism on its own, and the US must have known about that. Also, some other Russian lawmakers have been saying that considering the presence of the Western military equipment and the use of the Western ammunition and missiles in the attack against the civilian population in those border regions of Russia, the West must have been involved. So this is what we are getting to this moment from the Russian military. However, there are certain discrepancies if you read the media from the other side.
Dasha, what is the latest on evacuation from Kursk and Belgorod regions?
Those evacuations are ongoing, and the understanding is that after the introduction of the federal level state of emergency, they have only accelerated. We don't have yet the numbers, but this is the ongoing process. Interestingly, now we are hearing from the organizations that are helping the civilians to be evacuated that it is the psychological help that the people who have lived in those territories require at the moment. They also insist that these evacuations help prevent the deaths and injuries among the civilian population. Because, for instance, in Belgorod region alone, there have been attacks for months now against the civilian infrastructure and civilians in the border areas of this region. We've heard about drones overnight, for instance, dropping the explosives onto the cars in the residential areas of the settlements in the Belgorod region. And this is a daily process for the people who have lived there. So evacuations are ongoing and people require help, and they are being helped by various people from other regions who are sending this help what they can through the charity organizations.
All right, thanks for your analysis, Dasha. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Gaza ceasefire talks underway in Doha for the second day. Thailand's parliament elects Paetongtarn Shinawatra as its youngest prime minister. China's youth unemployment rate climbed to 17.1% in July.
On Voice of the Global South this week, why is Hinduphobia on the rise around the world? Is it time the world acknowledged anti-Hindu hatred just as it does anti-Semitism? Iraq plans to lower the age of marriage for girls to 9. India's first sunken museum showcases centuries-old treasures. Tune in at 7 p.m. IST, 13:30 GMT on Saturday, 17th August, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a phone call from Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday. Both leaders discussed the prevailing situation in West Asia, and PM Modi emphasized the need to de-escalate the situation. He also called for immediate release of all hostages and the need for continued humanitarian assistance. An early and peaceful resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy was pressed upon. The counterparts held talks on various aspects of the bilateral cooperation and ways to further strengthen the India-Israel strategic partnership. Now, in a bid to bolster peace efforts in West Asia, foreign ministers of UK and France met their counterpart Israel Katz and Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer in Israel on Friday. Britain and France are calling for a diplomatic solution to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and restore peace along the Israeli-Lebanese border, the British Foreign Ministry said. The visit marks the first UK-France joint visit to Israel in more than 10 years. Their visit comes at a time when diplomatic efforts are underway in Doha to secure a ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, with key mediators working to break the deadlock after previous failed talks. Meanwhile, Israel has ordered fresh evacuations in southern and central Gaza on Friday, saying the areas had been used by Hamas as a base for firing mortars and rockets towards Israel. DD India's Sarah Coates has sent this report from Tel Aviv.
These talks are set to pick up once again in Qatar later this afternoon. According to these key mediators on the ground, so far they have been constructive. They've been held in good spirits. Now, what these mediators are really trying to do this time around is basically the same as what they've tried other times around, and this is bridging the gaps between the positions of Israel and Hamas. Now, we do have a statement from Qatar's foreign ministry. It came out to say that mediators are resolute in their commitment to move forward in their endeavours to reach a ceasefire in the Strip that would facilitate the release of hostages and enable the entry of the largest possible amount of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Now, there is a real push this time to try and get this over the line once and for all, especially given the threat from Iran, the threat from Hezbollah after the assassinations of both Fuad Shukr, he was the second in charge of Hezbollah, and then, of course, Ismail Haniyeh, he was the head of Hamas's Politburo. And this is why Iran is saying it will retaliate to Israel, given that Ismail Haniyeh was killed on the soil of Iran. So certainly a very tense time here in the region. And this, once again, is why we're just seeing such a huge diplomatic push to try and bring down tensions.
Thailand's parliament elected Paetongtarn Shinawatra as its youngest prime minister on Friday, only a day after she was thrust into the spotlight amid an unrelenting power struggle between the country's warring elites. Paetongtarn succeeds Srettha Thavisin, who was removed from his post by Constitutional Court ruling on Wednesday. The 37-year-old Paetongtarn is the youngest child of billionaire tycoon Thaksin Shinawatra and is the third member of the family after her father and aunt to hold the nation's top job.
For now, we'll wait for the royal endorsement before discussing our administration plans further. Today, I just wanted to come here to express my gratitude for the votes. I feel excited. Normally speaking in front of a microphone doesn't make me nervous, but today I'm really excited.
DD India correspondent William Denslow reports.
The majority of members of parliament in Thailand have approved Paetongtarn Shinawatra to be the country's next prime minister. She's never served in office before, but the family name is certainly well known on the political landscape in Thailand. Her father, Thaksin Shinawatra, is a former prime minister himself and still looms large over Thai politics. He is still regarded as a deeply divisive, deeply polarizing character on the Thai political scene. He only returned to the country around a year ago after a prolonged period in self-imposed exile. This is just the latest chapter in what has been a tumultuous time in Thai politics, with the Constitutional Court very much at the heart and centre of it. Just a few weeks ago, they moved to dissolve an opposition Move Forward party after their attempts to amend a defamation law in the country. And then just a few days ago, they ruled in a 5-4 decision to remove Shinawatra's predecessor, Srettha Thavisin, from the role of Prime Minister, accusing him of grossly violating ethical standards because one of his cabinet picks had a criminal record. Shinawatra now has the unenviable task of bringing a degree of unity to what has been an incredibly divisive period in Thai politics, and also to try and get a spluttering economy moving again. William Denslow in Hong Kong reporting for DD India.
Sweden has confirmed its first case of the viral infection Mpox, which was also the first case outside Africa. This comes a day after the WHO declared the disease a global public health emergency for the second time in 2 years. Sweden's Health and Social Affairs Minister informed that the country has the first case of a more dangerous type of Mpox called the Clade 1. Meanwhile, in Asia, Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Health Department has also confirmed one case of Mpox in patients who had returned from a Gulf country. After Mpox cases detected outside Africa, officials of the World Health Organization and the International Federation of the Red Cross held a press conference on the disease. Highlighting the threat of its spread, no travel restrictions were addressed, but an urgent need for international support was called in.
Spreading much more rapidly than we had seen others spread, so that's one issue. It does have quite a high case fatality rate at the moment. As mentioned, we've seen more than 500 deaths, and it's particularly dangerous for those with a weak immune system, so people who maybe have HIV or who are malnourished. And as you know, in the area that it's spreading very rapidly, Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, there are a lot of people who are displaced because of conflict and are under all kinds of stress. It's also dangerous for small children.
Despite these efforts, we are facing significant challenges. There is a critical shortage of testing, treatment, and vaccines across the continent. These shortages are severely hampering the ability to contain the outbreak. We are calling for urgent international support to increase access to vaccine stocks and treatment options, and to scale up testing and alert investigation. Without these resources, the epidemic will continue to spread.
From a trade war to a prolonged property crisis, China grapples with one crisis after the other. The unemployment is increasing among the young population of the country. The employers in the lackluster $19 trillion economy held off on hiring. According to country's statistics, the jobless rate for 16 to 24-year-olds in China, excluding students, rose to 17.1% in July from 13.2% in the prior month. Around 12 million students graduated this summer, but in spite even roles in remote rural areas attracting youth, aspiring professionals are facing the toughest job market in years. American singer Taylor Swift delivered an unforgettable experience to her fans at Wembley Stadium on Thursday for the final shows of a European Eras tour. Singer Ed Sheeran was also in attendance to show his support for Swift. The unexpected sighting sparked excitement among the crowd, adding to the already memorable night. All right, let's take a look at other stories making news today. Anger over the brutal rape and murder of a doctor in eastern India showed no signs of abating on Friday. Doctors and medical representatives have launched various forms of protest across India. Resident doctor associations across Delhi conducted a joint protest march at Nirman Bhavan, New Delhi. India's Health Ministry has directed that all government hospitals must lodge police complaints within 6 hours following any incident of violence on their premises. The direction came in the wake of recent incident of murder of a doctor in Kolkata. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami participated in the appointment letter distribution program in Dehradun. Chief Minister gave appointed letters to assistant teachers who were selected under the Elementary Education Department at Directorate of Education. On to sports news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with the Indian Olympic contingent in New Delhi. Addressing the players, Prime Minister Modi lauded the Olympians for their performance and making the Indian flag fly high at the Paris Olympics. The athletes were totally excited to meet and interact with the Prime Minister. Take a listen.
ओलंपिक्स के करीब 125 साल के इतिहास में ये मनु हमारी पहली बेटी ऐसी है जिसने भारतीय खिलाड़ी के रूप में इंडिविजुअल इवेंट में 2 मेडल जीते हैं। हमारा नीरज पहला ऐसा भारतीय खिलाड़ी है जिन्होंने इंडिविजुअल इवेंट में गोल्ड और सिल्वर जीते। हॉकी में भारत ने 52 साल बाद लगातार 2 बार मेडल जीते कंटिन्यूसली। अमन ने केवल 21 साल की उम्र में मेडल जीत करके देश को बिल्कुल इतना प्रसन्न कर दिया है और अमन के जीवन के विषय में आज देश जानने लगा है तो उनको लग रहा है कि भाई व्यक्ति के जीवन की कठिनाइयों से भी इंसान अपनी यात्रा को, स्वप्न को, संकल्प को सिद्ध कर सकता है।
India's Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandviya graced the grand send-off ceremony in New Delhi for the Indian contingent heading to the Paris Paralympic Games. Minister called them a source of inspiration for the nation. With the largest contingent ever and robust backing from the government, Indian athletes are poised not just to participate but to excel at the Paralympic Games.
The Paralympic Committee of India held a grand send-off committee in Delhi for the Indian contingent heading to the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. The event was graced by Union Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia, who expressed pride in athletes, calling them a source of inspiration for the nation.
लेकिन आपने हमेशा माना होगा कि सब लोग सब कुछ कर सकते हैं। यही हौसले के साथ आपने खेला होगा, तब जाके आज के इस अवसर में आप उपस्थित रह पाए हैं। दोस्तों, आप देश का गौरव है, आप देश का प्राउड है, नहीं केवल प्राउड है लेकिन आप देश के 140 करोड़ लोगों के प्रेरणा के स्रोत है।
During the ceremony, the anthem Macha Dhoom was unveiled, setting the tone for the Games. Union Minister of State for Youth Affairs and Sports, Raksha Kadse, also attended the send-off ceremony, voicing confidence in the abilities of the para-athletes.
जब भी हम हमारा जो लाइफ स्ट्रक्चर है या हम जैसे यूथ है जो काफ़ी दिक्कत मतलब अपने अपने लाइफ में स्ट्रगल करते हैं, लेकिन कई बच्चे रुक जाते हैं या कोई गलत डिसीजन लेते हैं। जब आपकी जर्नी हम देखते हैं कि आप इतने डिफ़िकल्ट इसमें भी या इतने जो भी आपकी जर्नी है उस जर्नी में आप कितना अचीवमेंट कर रहे हो, तो आप सबकी जर्नी हम सब के लिए काफ़ी प्रेरणादायी हमेशा से रही है।
Tokyo Paralympic gold medalist Sumit Antil praised the improved facilities provided to Indian athletes.
ये बात बिल्कुल जायज़ है कि सुविधाओं में कोई भी कमी एथलीट को अभी महसूस नहीं हो रही है। वी हैव वर्ल्ड क्लास फैसिलिटीज़ और मेरे होम टाउन में जैसे साई सोनीपत में एक अलग से जेवलिन ट्रैक भी है हमारे लिए और वे ट्रेनिंग की भी काफ़ी अच्छी फैसिलिटीज़ हैं। तो उम्मीद है सर कि आने वाले टूर्नामेंट्स में काफ़ी अच्छा फ़ायदा देखने को मिलेगा हम उस चीज़ को।
The send-off ceremony highlighted India's growing commitment to para-sports. With the largest contingent ever and robust backing from the government, Indian athletes are poised not just to participate but to excel at the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. Narayan Singh's report for DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.